Hi, my name is SIDDHARTH BASRUR. I am a singer, songwriter, musician, composer, performer from Bombay, and you're watching RhythmNation.tv. Music kind of art runs in my family. My grandmom was a dancer. My grandfather used to sing, well, not professionally, but he used to sing at parties and stuff like that. He always had a great voice. My dad has a great voice. My grandfather's sister is a dancer. So, yeah, art runs in my family, and I was always encouraged to sing. And I never went through any professional training as such because I was too much of a handful, I guess, as a kid. And I was very distracted all the time. So, and I also changed schools a lot, so I didn't get to kind of connect with a particular music teacher at any particular point. But all the same, I was always encouraged to listen to music. I was always encouraged to sing and take up instruments. Like I took up the keyboard when I was, I think, 9 or 10. And music was always around me. So, like, one of the earliest memories I have was like during Diwali, the firecrackers used to really scare me. And so my dad had this huge pair of headphones which used to like cover almost my entire face. And there's even a photo of me when I was like maybe 3 years old with those headphones, which are as big as my face, on my ears basically. So I grew up with like a bunch of like my dad's record collection. Like I had open access to it. I was never told not to touch this, or I was encouraged to like go and listen to music on my own. Yeah, like my dad loves music. So as soon as compact disc players hit India, like our first compact disc player was like this big, and I think it was a Sony, if I'm not mistaken. And I think it's still there somewhere beneath or up in the attic or something like that, you know. But yeah, that I was not allowed to touch because that was new technology. But records, cassettes, I had complete access. My dad had drawers filled with them, and I think most of the gifts that I asked for were mostly music. So I asked, like, every time it was a birthday or some special occasion, if anyone asked me what I wanted, it would be cassettes. I think that happened much later in my life, much later as in probably when I was in my late teens, when I wasn't in a band till I was like 18, 19. And then like I was working full time by then. I quit college, and I obviously really wanted to do it, but then at that time, like now you can probably make a living out of being an independent musician if you're really good and you're popular and you're getting enough gigs. But at that time there was no concept, like there were very few people who actually made a living of doing that. And so I did try once. I screwed it up majorly, like I got into a lot of trouble, and so I gave it up for a long time after that. And then I slowly kind of inched my way back into the indie scene. Well, there was barely a scene back then. I'm talking about like 2005. It's like 11 years ago. And it was I think much later, even after that I realized that I really want to do this, because every time I've switched careers a lot. Like I started off, my first job was in sales, and then I worked for a rehab for a while. Then I was a sound engineer, and then I was a writer, and there was some kind of dissatisfaction with every job that I had, and it all led me back to one thing, that was music. Like I've quit jobs because switched careers. Like I was a sound engineer, and I had a very good job, and I would have probably been a completely different person had I been doing that today. And I just wasn't getting enough time to do my music though. So I was working 16, sometimes 20 hours a day, and I barely had enough time to go home, have a shower, and get like a couple of hours sleep, let alone do music. So I did that. That was my wake-up call, saying that I can't let my life turn out this way, and I quit the job. somehow, and I took up a writing job at like less than 1/3 the pay of what I was getting paid at my sound engineering job. And I guess you could say that was, in a way, a turning point in my life where I knew that I can't survive if I don't have music in my life. The first time I heard my music player was neither on TV or radio or online. It was just on a compact disc. And if I listen to it now, I think it sounds horrible. But back then I was like, wow, this is so cool. Like, I am listening to my own voice. And we didn't have the means to record stuff back then. Yeah? I mean, computers, like my first computer at that time was like, my hard drive was 4.3 gigs. So I think my phone has more RAM now, probably, you know. I don't have any specific techniques that I practice. I just keep singing. Like last couple of years, I kind of ended up neglecting my voice a lot because I wanted to be a better producer. I wanted to be a better guitar and bass player. So I'm concentrating a lot on doing that. And I think I've gotten a lot farther than I was earlier. But this year onwards, at the ending of last year to now, I've been singing as much as possible. I've been collaborating with as many people as possible. I've been like trying to put up home videos of me doing like my favorite covers and some originals as well. So there's no regime that I follow per se, but I just sing. I just keep singing. Mostly from the 90s and like the early 2000s era. Scott Weiland from Stone Temple Pilots, God rest, bless his, may his soul rest in peace. Like he was one of my biggest influences back in the day. And Lane Staley again went down the wrong path and passed away way too early. Eddie Vedder to a large extent. And so I mean the grunge era was is still where my roots lie, I don't listen to many of those bands. I still listen to them, but not as much as I used to. But I'll always be grateful to that era of rock and roll. Yeah, Chris Cornell, like he's one guy who's thankfully still alive, and hopefully he'll stay that way. You know, yeah. So these guys have like been kind of like my mentors because I tried to ape them as much as I could when I was in my earlier days when as a live musician, as a singer. And yeah, I mean I've stopped doing that. Obviously, I've found my own voice and I found my own style of singing. But still, like if you listen to some of my earlier stuff, you probably be able to tell. Well, there's no one song. There can never be one song. I mean, there are plenty of songs. So, and at the top of my head, I can't pinpoint one. It's not possible. It's just not possible. So when I was in my 10th standard, I was like 15. And I just passed my 10th, and I remember I had high fever, and I was really ill, and we were about to go on vacation, like my family and I. And there was this tape back then called MTV's Alternative Nation. It was a program when MTV was still playing a lot of English music at that time, and so it had everything from like White Zombie to Ash, Manic Street Preachers. I still remember, like, that was my musical awakening, I feel. Like, I was 15 years old and never heard of any of these bands. And that's when I started actually loving this kind of music, loving alternative rock. And it had this Japanese band called Shonen Knife. I mean, like this, it's like so obscure. I mean, especially at that time, this was what, in 97. Like I've not even heard of these bands, let alone like listen to their music. So if I had to choose one album, that would definitely be it, hands down. Earlier it used to be the latter. Earlier it used to be the former, which I used to only be able to write what I felt. But now I can write about other stuff. I mean, I have to feel deeply about it, obviously. But like, so the root of it will, like, the story will be something that I feel deeply about. So it's probably a combination of the two. It differs. Like sometimes I have a habit of writing on my phone a lot. So earlier I used to actually write physically, but now who's got the time for that, right? So like I'm stuck at a signal, get an idea, pen it down, not pen it down, but jot it down on my phone. Waiting to give an interview, jot it down on your phone. And I have several voice notes with just like random melodies, half of which I'm probably never going to use. But nevertheless, I mean, I have like a huge bank of ideas that either stem from just humming or just a vocal melody. And then sometimes if I have a guitar and I'm too lazy to plug it into my sound card, I'll just open up my phone and I'll record a riff, or I'll record a chord progression. It depends. Like some songs just like kind of pop out, you know, like the really good ones I feel just come out in like very, very, like it just kind of hit me in the face. You know, there's no process. Like I just pick up the guitar and I think of a vocal melody and I think of the words and I think of the chords and everything just comes together like really, really beautifully. But that's not always the case. Like a lot of times I really have to like probably try and marry. Like I have a guitar part over here, or I have an entire song. I have a habit of doing that. I'll write an entire song instrumentally, and then I'll see, okay, I have an archive of lyrics. So I'll try and pick what I feel will be right for that song. No, not really. I mean, I can't, again, like both of them have their, I won't say cons, but both of them have their pros. Yeah, I love performing live. That's where it started out from. And if you don't perform your stuff live, like I've noticed this. Like I've written a ton of material, and if I don't get to perform it live, it's just kind of stagnating there. What's the point of writing it if you're not going to perform it live? So I think kind of both of them kind of go hand in hand. Yeah. There is a certain amount of nervousness, definitely, especially when I'm doing my own stuff, because, I mean, try as hard as I may, like I do give a shit about what the audience thinks, you know, and I want them to like what I'm doing. Why else would I be doing it, you know? I mean, I do it because I love doing it. I'll do it because I think that's what I'm born to do. But then at the end, if the audience doesn't like what I'm doing and I kind of feed off that energy, I feel. It was barely a performance because I had really high fever and I was really ill, and I totally screwed that performance up because I could barely talk, let alone sing. And I almost got thrown out of the band after that. So apparently the band told me later that if you had screwed up the next one as well, you would have been out. But the next performance was actually really, really good. And I didn't know what stage presence and all was at that time. So I used to like stand there like fiddling with my t-shirt, my hands in my pocket and stuff like that. I was 18 or 19 years old. I didn't know what I was doing. Well, I am a part of like, a bunch of bands right now. There's Last Remaining Light, which we released an album in August last year. And unfortunately, for various reasons, like we're working on a music video, but nothing has been released so far because of whatever reasons. And it's a 10 song album, and I had a lot of fun recording it, a lot of fun. Yeah, apart from that, like this is probably the first time I'm talking about this on camera, but I have another project which is everything's been done by me. It's called RUNT, R-U-N-T, and I don't know, like I don't want to classify it by giving it a genre, but it's aggressive, and it's got like punk overtones, a little bit of progressive overtones, and I have like 9 songs ready right now, and I'm just waiting for the right moment to get into the studio. And like I've already got structures of 9 songs ready, completely recorded, produced at home, mixed. Apart from vocals, I've got like 3 songs with vocals. So I'm trying to find the right people to sing on the record because I don't want to do all the singing. The money, probably. Initially, at least, it's always the money because you need money to gig, you need money to travel. I mean, you need money to make music. You need, as in record it, you need money to buy gear. And for the longest time, I didn't have much money. Like my folks are very supportive, and like they've bought me a lot of gear over the years. But yeah, I mean, after a certain point, you can't keep taking, right? So you gotta make do with what you got. I guess to a large extent, I mean, I hate to admit it, but it's recognition. If you're if you want to do it for a living, that's the only way you can survive is by people enjoying your music, because that's the only way they're going to come for your gigs, which will give you the chance to play more gigs in the future, which will make you money. Don't. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I mean, as a musician, someone who wants to get into this full time, I mean, if you feel like you have the potential, I just say, like, just go with it, man. You should go with it.